Good morning, good afternoon. It's me again, Jen. And I have to confess, two cards jumped out before I even started shuffling today. So I'm going to do something a little different. I am going to read both of these cards because the similarities and differences between the two, I feel like, kind of need to be mentioned. And so just as I started shuffling, before the camera even started, these two cards leapt out together like blat, there they are. So when that happens, I kind of feel like they probably want me to tell their story a little bit. So I'm going to set this aside and not even shuffle and not even draw one because these two guys jumped out. And they're both pages, and that's kind of the other reason why I was like, okay, you guys want to be seen. I get it. Let's see what's going on here. The other thing is, at least to me, they feel like the older sibling and the younger sibling, which is always kind of, I don't know, it feels interesting to me. So I'm going to do something I haven't done yet, and I'm going to read two cards kind of at the same time, just to do something a little different. It's towards the end of the month. Why not? Why not do something a little strange? Okay, so here they are, the two that jumped out, and it's interesting, I picked them up so they're both facing me. We have the Page of Wands and the Page of Swords. Now, already looking at them, I'm sure you can see the differences. One is very bright, one is smiling, one is looking out into the world. The other is kind of more muted tones, more somber almost in her expression, and she's looking down. The other thing is we've got a very, I would say, very boyish looking figure and a very feminine looking figure. And so I love that these are kind of great representations of what the pages really are. They are young people, not necessarily of a particular gender. These could be either or. They could have chosen to have this be a male figure, and they could have chosen this one to be more girlish in the appearance. But the pages can be either or. The pages really represent the focus on self, though, the focus on youth and innocence and that sort of selfishness that comes with being young, because we don't know better at that point. We don't know we should be looking out for other people. We know that we should be looking out for ourselves and kind of discovering the world for what it is and discovering who we are in that. So it does make us very selfish in youth. But I don't think that's a negative. I look at the pages and I think it's not negative to look to self every once in a while, to really analyze self. So I want to start with Wands because he is so whimsical, and we'll kind of finish with Swords. So Wands, we know, are fire signs. They are fire and energy and exuberance and all of those kinds of things, very kinetic. They're also very intellectual in a way. They want to study things. They want to be a part of learning in a physical sense. They are not really they're not really satisfied with things that are more philosophical. So I'm going to set her down for a minute. They're not really satisfied with things that are philosophical or of the mind. They want to study the world and their place in it, which again is very much a page sort of thing. This guy, I mean, it's just so bright and vibrant. He's yellows, he's energy, he's kinetic. You could see him just looking at something in the distance going, that's amazing, I need to be a part of that. And this is the kid that's going to get into trouble, so much trouble. You also cannot keep these characters sitting still. I kind of feel like maybe they picked a boy in this because it does kind of have a Peter Pan-esque sort of feel to what the page represents. He is moving, tumbling, touching. This is not a kid you can tell, look with your eyes. They've got to touch it. They've got to poke it. They've got to see what happens. I feel like the reason why they have the wand or the staff is to poke things. And I poke it with the stick. I want to poke it with the stick. And I want to study things. And not in one place. I'm going to look over here. And then I'm going to look over here. And then I'm going to discover this. And I can't sit still. And oh my goodness. What's next? What's next? What's next? And they're so energetic. and so wild in how they want to study things. It's like, oh, you want to sit them down and like they have an interest in fireflies. Cool, let's sit in the dark and watch the fireflies. No, no, no. I want to catch them. I want to see. And oh, I've got the fireflies, but now what is that? What is that thing in the dark? I've got to go check that out because it's dark. And what about the stars? Oh, let's look at the stars. Fireflies are kind of like stars. And this is literally how their brain works. Ba, 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 ba. Too busy all the time. Unfocused. Crazy. So I'm going to set him down and bring up his older, I'm going to say older, wiser sister in this case, just because. And she is so much more focused. So again, pages are about that discovery of something, but swords are a little bit more about honing skills and being more practical, still like the wands are, but in an intellectual sense of study and really taking the time to study something. So while wands here is going to be going, oh, I want to study this, I want to check that out, I want to see this, I want to see that. Swords are more like, I'm going to pick a thing and I'm going to focus the heck out of it. And they cannot unfocus. They almost forget everything else that is around them. And keep in mind, the Page of Swords is going to grow into the Knight of Swords, who is just going to drive through with laser focus on something. They are not going to see, oh, option A, B, C, or D. It's A or nothing. And that's what they're going to do. They're going to focus. And so this is the beginning of that. And while I mentioned Peter Pan as a literary reference, I realize I make a lot of literary references. I mentioned Peter Pan as a literary reference for our Page of Wands because he flits about so much. I actually want to evoke something a little more modern, a little more recent, although still kind of creating a mythos of its own, is in the Game of Thrones series, the character of Arya. Giant spoiler alert here. If you haven't read it or seen it, it's past tense now. So spoilers. So the character of Arya really starts out as this immature, very unsure of themselves sort of character, but she focuses her skills on the sword. And the sword becomes this extension of her body. And yes, the reason I'm using the sword is because this is a Page of Swords, but I really do think that the energy of the Page of Swords also really represents that character of Arya. They are focused, laser focused on the task at hand. I'm going to learn how to use this sword. And while with Arya, vengeance was kind of on her mind with her reasoning behind that, I do think to some degree that is the budding to the Knight of Swords, because the Knight of Swords will destroy whatever is in his path, if so be it. Like, if it's standing in his way, he's going to cut it down. That's just the way it's going to be. And I feel like that building a vengeance or building a list of people that you're going to destroy might actually be something that the Page of Swords would focus on. So while the Page of Swords is honing a skill, so this is a child who is going to be a young person who is going to pick up an instrument and master that instrument. This is a person who is going to come home from dance class with bruises on their feet. They are so beat up. This is someone who will take a sport and just breathe energy into it because their entire soul and spirit is dedicated to this one task at hand. So while we have people who are very talented at something, this person is skilled. This person is going to find that thing that they are good at and hone it, which again, I think that kind of brings us back to the sword too, is that you don't get a good sword by just grabbing a hunk of metal and swinging it around. Swords are folded and forged and reforged and folded and hammered and, in the fire and out of the fire and in the fire and out of the fire and all of these things to create this individual who is going to be strong and solid and sharp in wit as well, and probably sharp in tongue because they tend not to notice other people in their lives. So while this one loses focus on other people and focuses on self in the constant change of study, This one is so focused on studying something, they can lose the people around them and kind of lose track of what's going on. But I really love that these two jumped out at the same time. And I know this is running a little longer than most of my descriptions, but I am trying to keep it reasonably short. But yes, they jumped out at the same time because I feel like while they are very different, they are also very similar. And I like showing that juxtaposition too of like, this is what the pages are all about. This is what they focus on. So, two cards today, two for the price of one. Page of Wands, Page of Swords, and I really love that they came out together. I do. So, as always, if you are interested in discussing this, please leave a comment below. And I love to read the comments. And these are just such beautiful cards. I would love to have these as a painting together. Anyway, so there's your literary references, your tarot references for the day. And I hope that you will come check out some of the other things that I do and some of the other interesting stuff that we study in tarot cards, as well as with dance and music and all kinds of things. And I'm a little sad that we are reaching the end of the month and we'll be leaving these cards behind because, as I didn't say in the beginning, we are in Journey to the Hidden Realms tarot, and these were gifted to me by my dear friend Topaz, and I will be giving them back at the end of the month. So again, thank you. Please, all of you, much love to everyone. Stay safe, stay healthy, and be good to each other. Just don't forget about each other in this crazy time. All right, bye!